Okay, Walter Wofford, Short-Term Rental Cash Flow Roadmap, back for another session. So let me ask you a question right off the bat. Would you spend $12,000 to make $2,000 a month? Is that a hard question? Of course you would. And so that's the arbitrage model. You would lease a house that's ready to go, already fixed up, so you wouldn't have much to do to it. You buy the furnishing, ours average about $12,000, and we've covered in other videos how to raise the money for the $12,000, assignment of rents and other models that we can use. But what is the ROI, return on investment? Investing $12,000 to get $2,000 a month, that's a pretty good return. So in this video, we're going to cover that. And of course, with the help of Bill and Judy, my AI team, we've laid it out pretty straightforward for you. And you'll realize that there is no better real estate investment in terms of cash flow than investing $12,000 to get $2,000 a month. That's my conclusion. All right. Thank you.
Welcome to the deep dive. So can you actually take a regular rental lease and, turn it into a serious short-term money maker? That's the really interesting idea we're tackling today. We're diving into a specific financial model for short-term rental arbitrage, or STR arbitrage. Our mission here is to unpack the finances, the income, the costs, and this crucial upfront investment figure of $12,000 for getting it set up and furnished. And by the end, we want to figure out the potential return on investment based on the sources you've brought.
Yeah, basically STR arbitrage is where you lease a property long-term, then you turn around and sublease it short-term on places like Airbnb or Vrbo. It's a fascinating way to think about leveraging someone else's asset, really, turning a standard lease into potentially a dynamic income stream.
Okay, let's get into this model then. Starting with income, the sources show a gross rental income of $5,000 a month. That's, wow, $60,000 a year coming from Airbnb, Vrbo, maybe some direct bookings too. What usually drives that kind of income?
Well, hitting that $5,000 mark really depends on things like occupancy rates and how you price it. Location's key, obviously, and good marketing helps. But that impressive gross income, it starts getting chipped away by fixed operating expenses pretty quickly. These are costs you pay no matter what. The big one is the lease itself, $1,400 a month. Then you've got utilities, electric, water, gas, maybe $500 monthly, plus about $80 for Wi-Fi. And don't forget supplies, maybe $100 a month, $50 for landscaping, and a really important buffer, $200 a month for repairs and maintenance. So when you add all that up, those fixed costs are $2,330 each month, or $27,960 for the year.
Right, the predictable stuff. So after you account for those fixed costs, what are we looking at for net operating income before the, fluctuating expenses?
Okay, yeah. Once you subtract those fixed costs from the gross income, you get the net operating income, the NOI. It's basically the profit before those activity-based costs. And according to the sources, that comes out to a pretty healthy $2,670 per month. Annually, that's $32,040. That's your operating profit before we factor in things like cleaning.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting, right? The variable expenses, the costs that change depending on how much the place is actually used.
Exactly. These can make a big difference. The model estimates cleaning and turnover costs based on, say, 4 bookings a month. At $150 per clean, that's $600 monthly, or $7,200 annually. Plus, you've got the platform fees from Airbnb or Vrbo, usually around 3% of the growth income, so that's another $150 monthly, or $1,800 a year, so those variable costs together. About $750 a month, or $9,000 annually. And it's worth remembering, this really hinges on that booking number and your cleaning costs being accurate.
Okay, so we've got the income, subtracted the fixed costs, subtracted the variable costs. What's the final number? What's the actual net cash flow, the profit here?
Right, the bottom line. The final net cash flow after all expenses are paid is $1,920 per month, which means, based on these figures, an annual profit of $23,040 from this arbitrage setup.
$23,000 profit. Now let's connect that back to the beginning, the big question. Return on investment. Given that $12,000 upfront cost for lease up and furniture, what does a $23,040 annual profit mean for ROI? That sounds pretty significant.
It is significant. If you take that $23,040 annual profit and divide it by the initial $12,000 investment, well, the model projects an ROI of 192%, which is, astonishing. It really shows how quickly you could theoretically make back your initial investment and then some. But, and this is a big but, that 192% relies heavily on everything going right, consistent bookings, keeping costs in check, no major surprise repairs. It's definitely a best case scenario from these numbers. The real world always throws curveballs,
Absolutely. Still, 192%, that's an eye-catching return. It really highlights the potential here, leveraging property this way if the numbers work out like in this example.
Indeed it does, and it kind of makes you wonder, doesn't it? It raises a question for you, listening right now. What other assets or resources could you potentially leverage? Maybe not even in real estate. But what could you use to create your own kind of innovative income stream? What's your arbitrage play waiting to be found?